The Alien Encounter. The serene quiet of a cold winter night in the small town of Windermere was abruptly shattered by an unusual hum in the air. Sam Everett, a solitary yet sharp-witted farmer, stepped out onto his weathered porch, lantern in hand. It was the kind of stillness he had grown to cherish, far from the chaotic noise of city life. But tonight, something felt off. He stood there, breathing in the crisp air, as a faint vibration traveled up through the soles of his boots. It wasn't a truck on the gravel road or the distant rumble of thunder. This was different, otherworldly. He squinted toward the horizon, where his cornfield stretched endlessly under a canopy of stars. A flash of light ripped through the darkness, brighter than anything Sam had ever seen. He instinctively shielded his eyes, but curiosity overpowered caution. Lantern swaying in his grip, he stepped down from the porch. The air around him felt charged, crackling faintly as though it were alive. At the edge of his field, a sleek craft hovered, just a few feet above the soil. It descended slowly, silently, as though gravity itself bent to its will. Sam froze in his tracks, his heart hammering in his chest. The vessel was unlike anything he could have imagined. Its surface shimmered like liquid silver, bending the faint light of the moon into dazzling patterns. "Holy hell," Sam whispered under his breath. His grip tightened on the lantern handle, a small gesture of reassurance against the monumental strangeness before him. The craft landed with a soft hiss. For a moment, all was silent again, save for the faint chirping of crickets in the distance. Sam stood rooted, torn between retreating to his house and moving closer. Then, the hatch opened. A faint mist spilled out, swirling in the cold night air. From the haze, a figure emerged. At first, all Sam could make out was a silhouette tall and slender, moving with a grace that didn't seem entirely human. When she stepped fully into view, the breath caught in his throat. Her skin shimmered faintly, like the glow of moonlight on water, and her hair flowed like liquid silver, cascading down her back. Her eyes, an astonishing blend of green and gold, seemed to shimmer with a light of their own, as though they held entire galaxies within. She was both alien and beautiful, a contradiction that left Sam utterly speechless. "I mean no harm," she said softly, her voice melodic yet oddly resonant, as if it carried through more than just the air. Sam blinked, startled to hear perfect English. The woman, or whatever she was, took a cautious step forward. "My name is Ilara," she continued. "I am a traveler, stranded far from home." Sam found his voice, though it came out more gruffly than he intended. "You're a long way from home, all right. What do you want from me?" Ilara tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him feel as though she could see far more than his outer self. "Assistance," she said simply. "My vessel is damaged, and I cannot repair it alone. I do not wish to intrude, but I had little choice. I saw this place, your home." Her eyes softened. "I hoped you might be willing to help." Sam hesitated. He was a man of logic and reason, a firm believer in what he could see and touch. And yet, here he was, face to face with the impossible. He glanced back at his farmhouse, a small, solitary structure that had been his world for years. It wasn't as though anyone would believe him if he told them. Finally, he sighed. "All right, Ilara. You can come inside, but don't try anything funny. And don't touch the shotgun over the fireplace," he added, half joking but entirely serious. She nodded, her expression unreadable. "I promise I mean no harm." As they walked toward the house, Sam couldn't help but steal glances at her. Everything about her seemed deliberate, from the way she moved to the way she studied her surroundings with wide, curious eyes. It struck him then that, for all her otherworldly presence, she seemed vulnerable. Inside the farmhouse, Sam set his lantern down on the table and gestured for Ilara to sit. She hesitated, then lowered herself into a chair with a grace that made even the simple act look alien. "Do you eat?" Sam asked awkwardly, unsure of how to begin this surreal interaction. Ilara smiled faintly. "Not as you do, but I can adapt." "Your hospitality is appreciated, Sam Everett." The sound of his name on her lips sent a strange shiver down his spine. He busied himself with pouring a cup of coffee, more for himself than her. As he sat across from her, he finally mustered the courage to ask the question that had been burning in his mind. "What are you?" Ilara looked at him thoughtfully, as though weighing how much she should reveal. "I am an explorer," she said finally. "My people venture beyond our world to learn, to observe. We do not interfere." Her gaze dropped slightly, and for the first time, she seemed hesitant. "But my journey went awry. My vessel was caught in a disturbance, and I had no choice but to land here." Sam frowned. "You're telling me there are more of you out there?" "Yes," she said simply. "But we do not reveal ourselves." "Not unless," she trailed off, her golden green eyes locking onto his. "Not unless we have no choice." Sam leaned back in his chair, trying to process everything. Ilara's presence, her words, the sheer magnitude of what was happening, it felt like stepping into a dream he couldn't wake from. "I don't know what you need from me," he admitted, "but I'll help if I can. Just tell me what to do." Ilara's lips curved into a small, grateful smile. "You already have, Sam. Trust is the rarest gift one can offer." As the night stretched on, Sam and Ilara spoke in quiet tones, bridging the vast gulf between their worlds. For the first time in years, Sam felt something stir within him. A flicker of excitement, a sense of purpose he hadn't realized he was missing. And as the stars wheeled overhead, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life, once so predictable, had just been irrevocably changed. A bond beyond worlds. The morning sunlight seeped through the thin curtains of Sam's farmhouse, illuminating the worn wooden floors and simple furnishings. For Sam Everett, the previous night felt like a fever dream, a shimmering alien craft in his cornfield, a mysterious being with eyes that held galaxies sitting at his kitchen table. Yet as he turned the corner into the living room, there she was. Ilara stood by the window, her silver hair catching the sunlight like strands of molten metal. Her hands rested lightly on the sill as she gazed out at the rolling fields of golden corn. For someone from another world, she seemed oddly at peace. "Do you sleep?" Sam asked, breaking the silence. He felt strange talking to her, part of him was still grappling with the reality of her presence, but the larger part of him couldn't help but be curious. Ilara turned, her expression soft. "Not as you do. My rest is more meditative." Sam nodded, unsure how to respond. He busied himself by brewing a fresh pot of coffee, the mundane act grounding him. As he poured a cup for himself, he realized Ilara was watching him with quiet fascination. "Is something wrong?" he asked, feeling self-conscious under her gaze. She tilted her head. "No. I find your rituals intriguing. The way you prepare, the way you savor." Sam chuckled, unsure whether she was complimenting him or just observing. "Well, coffee's a big deal around here. Want to try it?" Ilara hesitated, then stepped closer. "It won't harm me, will it?" "Not unless you're allergic to caffeine," Sam said with a grin, sliding a cup toward her. She studied the steaming liquid, then cautiously lifted the cup to her lips. Her eyes widened slightly at the taste. "It's bitter, but complex. There's warmth to it." "That's coffee for you," Sam said, sipping his own. "Gets me through the day." As they shared the quiet moment, Sam couldn't help but wonder about the being standing across from him. She seemed so composed, so otherworldly, yet there was a vulnerability in her demeanor that made her seem human. "So, what's the plan?" he asked finally. "How do we get your ship back in the air?" Ilara set her cup down, her expression turning serious. "My vessel's core is damaged. Without it, I cannot power the ship or communicate with my people. I was hoping your technology might offer a solution, but," she trailed off, glancing around the modest farmhouse. Sam scratched his head. "Yeah, I don't think we've got anything here that can fix whatever powers your ship. But there's a guy in town, Charlie, he's a mechanic and a bit of a tinkerer. If anyone can figure something out, it's him." Ilara's eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. "Would he be willing to help?" Sam chuckled. "Charlie's a curious guy. If I tell him you've got some fancy alien tech, he'll probably drop everything to take a look." The thought of bringing someone else into the fold made Sam uneasy, but he knew they had no choice. The longer Ilara stayed, the greater the risk of someone else discovering her. And while Windmere was a quiet town, word traveled fast when something out of the ordinary happened. "All right," Sam said, standing up. "We'll head into town after breakfast. Just, try to keep a low profile." Ilara gave a small smile. "I will follow your lead." The journey to town. The drive into Windmere was uneventful, but Sam couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Ilara sat quietly in the passenger seat of his old pickup truck, her gaze fixed on the passing landscape. "This is beautiful," she said softly. Sam glanced at her. "What, the cornfields?" "Everything," she replied. "The open space, the simplicity of it all. On my world, there is little untouched by technology. Places like this, they don't exist anymore." Her words hung in the air, a sobering reminder of just how different their worlds were. When they pulled into Charlie's workshop on the edge of town, the smell of motor oil and burnt rubber greeted them. Charlie, a wiry man in his late 40s with grease-streaked hands and an ever-present toothpick in his mouth, emerged from under the hood of an old car. "Sam! What brings you here?" he called, wiping his hands on a rag. His eyes darted to Ilara, and his brow furrowed. "And who's this?" Sam hesitated, searching for the right words. "This is Ilara. She's got some, unique tech she needs help with." Charlie raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What kind of tech are we talking about?" "The kind you've never seen before," Sam said, glancing at Ilara. She stepped forward, her calm presence disarming. "I come from far away. My vessel is damaged, and I require assistance to repair it." Charlie stared at her for a moment, then broke into a grin. "Far away, huh? Well, you've come to the right guy. Let me see what we're dealing with." The reveal. Back at the farm, Sam led Charlie to the cornfield where Ilara's ship rested, its sleek form glinting in the sunlight. Charlie let out a low whistle. "I've seen some crazy things in my time, but this takes the cake." Ilara explained the nature of the damage, her words carefully chosen to avoid overwhelming him. Charlie listened intently, nodding as though he understood more than he let on. "Well, I'll be damned," he said finally. "I don't know if I can fix this, but I'll give it a shot. I'll need tools, parts, and time." "You'll have everything you need," Ilara said, her tone resolute. Charlie looked at her, then at Sam. "You sure about this, Sam? This is big." Sam nodded, though a knot of anxiety twisted in his stomach. "Yeah. Let's do it." As Charlie began his work, Sam and Ilara watched from a distance. "Do you trust him?" she asked quietly. "I trust Charlie," Sam said. "But I'm not sure I trust the world not to notice what's happening here." Ilara's gaze turned to the horizon, her expression unreadable. "Then we must work quickly. My presence here is dangerous." Sam didn't press her for details, but the weight of her words was clear. They were on borrowed time, and whatever was coming, it wouldn't wait. The unveiling of secrets. Days passed as Charlie worked tirelessly on Ilara's ship, his curiosity fueling long hours in the cornfield. Sam had set up a makeshift workshop under the open sky, equipping Charlie with every tool and piece of machinery he could scavenge from his own shed in nearby stores. Ilara remained a silent guide, offering insights into her advanced technology while carefully avoiding details that might overwhelm or endanger them. It was early one morning when Sam noticed Ilara standing by the edge of the field, her figure silhouetted against the rising sun. She seemed lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Sam approached her, coffee in hand, and handed her the warm mug. "You've been quiet lately," he said, his voice gentle. Ilara glanced at him, her golden green eyes reflecting the morning light. "I've been observing," she replied. "Your world is fragile yet resilient. It fascinates me." Sam leaned against the fence, sipping his coffee. "Fragile's one way to put it. We're good at making messes, but we try to clean them up when we can." Ilara smiled faintly. "It's more than that. Your people have a capacity for hope that is rare. Even when faced with insurmountable odds, you press forward." It's a quality my kind often struggles to understand. Her words carried a weight that Sam couldn't quite place, but before he could ask more, Charlie called out from the ship. Sam! Ilara! You're gonna wanna see this. A glimpse of the universe. When they reached the ship, Charlie was standing next to an exposed panel, his face lit up with excitement. I think I've got something, he said, gesturing to the intricate array of glowing circuits and crystalline components. This core of yours, if I'm understanding it right, needs a stable power source to jumpstart its system. I rigged up something that might work, but I'm warning you, it's experimental at best. Ilara stepped forward, her expression unreadable as she examined Charlie's handiwork. Her fingers moved gracefully over the panel, adjusting connections and recalibrating settings. You've done well, she said softly. This should suffice for a temporary fix. Charlie grinned, but his excitement was tempered by curiosity. You're not telling me everything, though, are you? What's this thing really capable of? Ilara hesitated, then glanced at Sam. He nodded, silently encouraging her to trust Charlie. This vessel is more than just transportation, she began, her voice steady. It is a gateway, a means of traversing not just space, but dimensions. It allows my people to explore realms beyond what your science can currently comprehend. Charlie let out a low whistle. So, we're talking interdimensional travel? That's wild. Sam frowned. And dangerous, I'm guessing. Ilara's expression darkened. Yes. The technology is powerful, but it is not without risks. My people have strict protocols to prevent misuse, but the incident that brought me here, it was no accident. Her words hung heavy in the air. What do you mean? Sam asked, his tone sharpening. Ilara's gaze dropped. My mission was sabotaged. There are those among my kind who believe exploration should come second to conquest. They see your world and others like it as resources to be claimed, not cultures to be respected. Sam felt a chill run down his spine. So, you're saying they might come here? Ilara nodded. If they detect my ship's activation, it could draw their attention. That is why I must leave as soon as possible. The first sign. Later that evening, as the three of them sat around a small fire near the ship, a low hum filled the air. Ilara stiffened immediately, her eyes scanning the sky. What is it? Sam asked, his hand instinctively reaching for the shotgun he had brought out of the house earlier, just in case. Ilara stood, her posture tense. A signal. They've detected us. Charlie stood as well, his face pale. Who's they? Before Ilara could answer, a beam of light split the sky, piercing the horizon like a blade. It was faint but unmistakable, a sign of something approaching. Sam cursed under his breath. We're out of time. Ilara turned to Charlie. The repairs, are they complete? Charlie nodded, though his confidence wavered. As complete as they're gonna be. But if you're asking whether it'll hold up under pressure. I don't know. We'll have to risk it, Ilara said. Sam, Charlie, you've done more than I could have asked. But now you must go. It's not safe for you to stay here. Sam's jaw tightened. I'm not leaving you out here alone. If those things are coming, we need to face them together. Ilara's eyes softened, a flicker of emotion breaking through her calm exterior. I appreciate your courage, Sam, but this is not your fight. My people have their own rules, their own way of dealing with conflict. If you stay, you'll only be caught in the crossfire. Sam crossed his arms. I don't care about their rules. You're here, on my land, and that makes it my fight too. Charlie cleared his throat, stepping between them. All right, lovebirds, hate to break up the moment, but we've got bigger problems. If that signal means what I think it means, we don't have long before company arrives. Preparing for the unknown. The trio worked through the night, finalizing the ship's repairs and preparing for what lay ahead. Ilara explained what little she could about her pursuers, rogue factions within her species who sought to exploit weaker worlds. Sam armed himself with whatever he could find, his trusty shotgun, a hunting knife, and a determination that bordered on recklessness. Charlie, ever the pragmatist, focused on fortifying the area around the ship, rigging up makeshift defenses with spare parts and equipment. As dawn approached, the air grew heavy, charged with an energy that set everyone's nerves on edge. The faint hum that had started the night before was now a steady vibration, pulsing through the ground like an unspoken warning. "They're close," Ilera said, her voice barely above a whisper. Sam stepped closer to her, his resolve clear. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Ilera looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "You don't know what you're risking." "Doesn't matter," Sam replied firmly. "I'm not letting you face this alone." The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the field. And as the three of them stood together, awaiting the unknown, a single thought echoed in Sam's mind. This was more than just a fight for survival. It was a fight for something bigger: trust, loyalty, and the unshakable belief that some bonds were worth any risk. The arrival. The first rays of dawn pierced through the sky, illuminating the cornfield with a faint golden glow. The eerie hum that had persisted throughout the night now grew louder, more pronounced, resonating in their bones. Ilera stood at the edge of her ship, her expression grim, her glowing green-gold eyes scanning the horizon with an intensity that made Sam uneasy. "They're here," she whispered. Sam gripped his shotgun tighter, his knuckles turning white. Charlie, standing a few feet away, adjusted the crude energy disruptor he had hastily cobbled together using spare parts and bits of Ilera's ship. It wasn't much, but it was something. Ilera turned to them both, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. "I cannot ask you to stay. If you leave now, you might avoid detection. They're not here for you, they're here for me." Sam stepped forward, planting himself firmly beside her. "We've been through this already, Ilera." "I'm not running, and neither is Charlie." Charlie grunted in agreement, though his voice betrayed his nerves. "Yeah, well, I don't know what we're up against, but I put too much sweat into fixing that ship to walk away now. Besides, someone's gotta make sure you two don't get yourselves killed." Ilera's lips curved into a faint smile, but her gratitude was fleeting as a sudden crack of light split the sky. It was as if the heavens themselves had been torn open. A massive vessel descended, its metallic surface gleaming with an ominous brilliance. It was angular and sharp, its design distinctly menacing, unlike the elegance of Ilera's ship. The air around it shimmered, distorted by the energy it radiated. "They've sent a hunter-class ship," Ilera said, her voice low. "It's designed for pursuit and capture. They won't negotiate." Sam tightened his grip on the shotgun. "Good thing we weren't planning on talking." First contact. The hunter-class vessel hovered above the field, its engines emitting a deep, resonant hum that vibrated the very ground. From its underbelly, a smaller craft detached and landed with a soft thud not far from where Sam, Ilera, and Charlie stood. The hatch of the smaller craft hissed open, and three figures emerged. They were humanoid in shape but taller, their skin a pale, iridescent blue. Their features were sharp and angular, their eyes cold and calculating. Each of them was clad in sleek armor that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal. The leader stepped forward, his gaze locking onto Ilera. He spoke in a language that was fluid and melodic, yet entirely alien. "They are demanding my surrender," Ilera translated quietly. "If I comply, they will leave your world untouched." Sam stepped in front of her, defiant. "And if you don't?" Her expression darkened. "Then they will take what they want by force." Sam looked at her, his jaw set. "We're not handing you over. Tell them that." Ilera hesitated, then responded in their language, her tone resolute. The leader's eyes narrowed, and he raised his hand, signaling to his companions. In an instant, they drew weapons, sleek, glowing devices that looked far more advanced than anything Sam or Charlie had ever seen. "Well, here we go," Charlie muttered, raising the energy disruptor he'd rigged up. The first strike. The alien soldiers moved with inhuman speed, closing the distance in seconds. Sam fired the first shot, the blast from his shotgun echoing across the field. The pellet struck one of the soldiers, but instead of piercing their armor, they seemed to dissolve on impact. Great, Sam muttered, scrambling for cover. Charlie activated the energy disruptor, a pulse of raw energy arcing toward the advancing aliens. It struck one of them, sending him staggering backward. It's not much, but it works. Charlie shouted triumphantly. Illyra moved with precision and grace, her movements almost too fast for Sam to follow. She extended her hand, and a shimmering field of light erupted around them, a protective barrier that deflected incoming fire from the alien weapons. They're testing our defenses, she said. They'll adapt quickly. We need to disable their ship before they call for reinforcements. How do we do that? Sam asked, ducking behind a stack of crates. Illyra's gaze flicked toward the Hunter-class vessel hovering above. Their power source is exposed beneath the main hull. If we can overload it, it will disable the ship temporarily. Charlie looked at her incredulously. You want us to take out that thing? With what? Harsh language? Illyra turned to him, her expression serious. The disruptor you built, it's crude but powerful. If we amplify its output, it might be enough to destabilize their core. Charlie's face paled. Might? It's our best chance, Illyra said firmly. A desperate plan. While Charlie worked to modify the disruptor, Sam and Illyra provided cover, fending off the alien soldiers as they pressed their attack. The protective barrier Illyra had conjured flickered under the strain, its light dimming with each hit. Charlie, how's it coming? Sam shouted over the chaos. Almost there. Charlie yelled back, sweat dripping down his face as he worked furiously. Keep them off me. Illyra stepped out from behind cover, her movements swift and fluid as she deflected a blast aimed at Charlie. Her presence was mesmerizing, a blend of grace and raw power. Sam, she called out. When the disruptor is ready, you'll need to get close enough to the Hunter-class ship to activate it. Their shields will block any remote detonation. Sam's eyes widened. You want me to walk right up to that thing? She met his gaze, her voice steady. I'll cover you. Before Sam could argue, Charlie shouted, It's ready. The final push. Sam grabbed the modified disruptor, its makeshift design sparking ominously. Illyra created a diversion, drawing the attention of the alien soldiers with a blinding flash of light that left them momentarily disoriented. Go, she shouted. Sam bolted across the field, his heart pounding as he sprinted toward the massive Hunter-class ship. The ground trembled beneath him, the hum of the vessel's engines growing louder with each step. Reaching the underside of the ship, he spotted the exposed power source, a pulsating sphere of energy encased in a crystalline structure. With no time to think, he activated the disruptor and slammed it against the sphere. A surge of energy erupted, the force throwing Sam backward as a deafening explosion rocked the field. The ship's lights flickered, and its engines sputtered before it began to descend, listing to one side. The alien soldiers froze, their attention snapping to their failing ship. Without a word, they retreated, vanishing into the smaller craft, which ascended rapidly and disappeared into the sky. As the Hunter-class vessel crumpled to the ground in a heap of smoke and debris, silence fell over the field. The aftermath. Sam staggered to his feet, coughing from the dust. Illyra was at his side in an instant, steadying him. You did it, she said, her voice tinged with relief. Yeah, well, remind me not to do it again, Sam muttered, wincing as he straightened. Charlie jogged over, his face a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. I can't believe that worked. We actually did it. Illyra's gaze shifted to the horizon, her expression somber. This isn't over. They'll be back. Sam looked at her, his jaw set. Then we'll be ready. As the sun rose higher, casting its light over the scorched field, a quiet resolve settled over the trio. They had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning, bonds forged in fire. The Hunter-class vessel lay in a smoldering heap in the middle of Sam's cornfield, its once imposing form now reduced to jagged metal and sparking circuits. Smoke curled into the morning sky, and the acrid scent of burning machinery filled the air. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, Sam, Illyra, and Charlie all knew that this victory was only a temporary reprieve. Sam sat on an overturned crate near the wreckage, exhaustion etched into his face. He clutched his shotgun loosely, the adrenaline of the battle ebbing away to reveal the aches and bruises he hadn't noticed earlier. Ilara stood a few feet away, her golden-green eyes scanning the wreckage with a mixture of relief and worry. Charlie was pacing nearby, his grease-streaked hands gesticulating as he muttered to himself about how blowing up alien tech wasn't in his job description. "I've seen some crazy things, but this takes the damn cake," Charlie finally said, breaking the tense silence. "I mean, we just took down an interstellar warship with a jerry-rigged gadget in pure dumb luck." Sam gave a weary chuckle. "Yeah, well, let's hope our luck holds out. Something tells me this isn't the last we'll see of them." Ilara turned to face them, her expression grave. "It isn't. The faction that sent this ship is relentless. They'll send more, and next time, they'll come in greater numbers. My presence here has endangered your world, and for that, I am deeply sorry." Sam frowned. "None of this is your fault, Ilara. Those bastards made the choice to come here, not you. Besides, we're not about to let them turn Earth into their playground." Charlie sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Alright, so what's the plan? Because I'm not exactly keen on waiting around for the next wave to show up." A plan takes shape. Ilara crouched near the wreckage of the Hunter-class ship, carefully removing a glowing crystalline core from its shattered remains. The object pulsed faintly, emitting a soft hum that seemed alive. "This is their communication node," she explained, holding it up for Sam and Charlie to see. "It's damaged, but with some effort, I can use it to send a signal, one that will misdirect any incoming forces." Sam raised an eyebrow. "You can trick them into thinking you've already left?" Ilara nodded. "Yes. If I calibrate it correctly, the signal will mimic the energy signature of my ship in motion, leading them to believe I've departed for another system." Charlie knelt beside her, examining the intricate device with a mix of fascination and skepticism. "That's a clever trick, but won't they figure it out eventually?" "They might," Ilara admitted. "But it will buy us time. Enough to fully repair my ship and ensure they cannot track me when I leave." Sam's jaw tightened. "And what happens if they don't fall for it? What if they come here anyway?" Ilara's gaze softened as she looked at him. "Then we'll face them together, as we did today. But I will not let your world suffer for my mistakes. If it comes to it, I will draw them away, even if it means risking my life." Sam's chest tightened at her words, and he shook his head. "We're not letting you face this alone. You're part of this now, Ilara, whether you like it or not." For the first time since her arrival, Ilara's composure faltered. There was a flicker of something raw and vulnerable in her expression, a mix of gratitude and sorrow. Building a sanctuary. Over the next few days, the trio worked tirelessly to execute Ilara's plan. Charlie took on the task of repairing the damaged communication node, grumbling about how alien tech made his head spin but secretly relishing the challenge. Sam focused on fortifying the area around the ship, using his farming equipment and a bit of ingenuity to create rudimentary defenses. Ilara, meanwhile, divided her time between assisting with the technical work and tending to the wreckage of her own vessel. Though she moved with purpose, Sam could see the strain in her posture, the weight of responsibility bearing down on her. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sam found Ilara sitting on the hood of his old pickup truck. She was staring up at the stars, her expression distant. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, climbing up to sit beside her. Ilara smiled faintly. "I was thinking about my home. About how far away it feels, even though I've traveled farther than this before." Sam nodded, staring out at the darkening sky. "Do you miss it?" "Parts of it," she admitted. "But my people, they've lost something. Their obsession with control, with order, it strangled the very essence of what made us curious, compassionate beings. That's why I chose to explore. I wanted to see if other worlds had kept what we lost." Sam glanced at her, his voice soft. "And did you find it?" Ilara turned to him, her golden-green eyes meeting his. "I found it here, in you." The weight of her words hung in the air, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Sam felt a warmth spread through him, a connection that defied logic or explanation. A new threat. Just as progress seemed to be going smoothly, a chilling discovery brought their work to a halt. While inspecting the wreckage of the Hunter-class ship, Charlie stumbled upon a small, disc-shaped device embedded in the debris. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, holding it up for Illyra to see. Her expression darkened immediately. "It's a beacon. A failsafe. They've already sent reinforcements." Sam cursed under his breath, his hands balling into fists. "How long do we have?" "Hours, at most," Illyra replied grimly. "We need to finish the signal and launch it immediately." The group sprang into action, their exhaustion forgotten in the face of this new urgency. Charlie redoubled his efforts on the communication node, while Sam and Illyra worked to reinforce the defenses around her ship. As the hours ticked by, tension hung heavy in the air. The faint hum of approaching ships began to echo on the horizon, a haunting reminder of what was at stake. A last stand. As the first enemy craft descended, its angular design illuminated by the harsh glow of its engines, Sam stood beside Illyra, his shotgun slung over his shoulder. Charlie knelt by the communication node, making the final adjustments. "This is it," Illyra said quietly, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Sam looked at her, his jaw set. "We're not going down without a fight." Illyra smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Nor are we alone." The battle that followed was fierce, a chaotic clash of alien technology and human ingenuity. But through it all, one thing became clear: the bond they had forged, born out of necessity and strengthened by trust, was their greatest weapon.